We're continuing with the Camel game. You should have just watched the introduction to the game. We're now going to create the loop. That's going to be the important part. That's what's going to keep your game going. Although by now you maybe not be able to see all the directions the same way that they were presented originally in the first video or even in this video. I am following the directions on the link above the readthedocs.io, and we'll continue from there. So basically, in case I haven't said this already in the introduction, the Camel game's been around for a good while, 40 years or so. It was originally written in BASIC. It was published in a magazine, and it's kind of interesting to see this since part of this course is to talk about the history of video games. This are scans from a magazine. This is a way that my friends and I, in a time younger than what the high school students are today, we were in junior high. I was maybe 12 or 13 years old. This is how we got our free games, basically, that were printed in a magazine. You had to go out and buy it, and then you'd have to type them in, and then hope that you didn't make any mistakes and run and actually get to play the game. I'll go back to the description of the game. You don't have to know the history of Camel. Like I said, maybe just a fun fact to know that before we had big graphic video games, we did have just regular games that were all text, just words, and you had to follow along with the logic, and this logic is still used in games today. It's a universal part of games. So here's a sample run of the game. This is what we want it to look like once we start to run it. It's going to give you the introduction. Welcome to Camel. You have stolen a camel to make your way across the Great Moby Desert. The natives want their camel back and are chasing you down. Survive your desert trek and outrun the natives. So basically, you are stuck in the desert. You have a camel. You have some water, and you have the ability to stop and go and rest and things like that, and that's pretty much all you have. When this game was originally produced, machines, your computers would not have too much memory. I was very glad that I would have 64K in my machine. At least it promised 64K. It actually delivered 38K. And if you are not familiar with Ks, then that's 1,000 of something, 1,000 letters. So write the letter A 1,000 times. That's 1K. Then write it again 64,000 times. And that's, if you could fit your program, your code, into that amount of space, then you'd have a game. So your games were a lot simpler. So welcome to Camel. Once the game begins, I already read the introduction, and then it's going to give you this menu. It's going to give you the options: drink from your canteen, ahead at moderate speed, ahead at full speed, stop and rest, status check, and quit. And it's going to ask the user for your choice. And in this case, the user said C, ahead at full speed. They traveled 12 miles. What happens when you travel 12 miles? Things will happen, like you will start to get thirsty. You are in the desert after all. The camel will start to get tired. You both actually will start to get tired. Maybe the camel will get thirsty. Maybe at a different rate than you. Then in the second play, the user chooses C again and travels 17 miles. Not necessarily the same amount as before. There are some random variables put in, so that maybe it was a sunny day, maybe it was too hot, maybe it rained. Who knows what happens, but it's not always the same trip. At the same time, the people that are chasing you are also advancing. At some point, if you ask for a status check, it will tell you that the natives are 31 miles behind you. So they're getting closer, you're trying to get away from them, you're running in the same way, etc. So you keep on traveling, and you go on and on until something happens. The natives may be getting close, and you might actually outrun them. In this case, in the sample, you win. There is an option, though, that maybe you run out of water, maybe your camel gets too tired, maybe the natives ran a little bit faster than you, and they will catch you. So now, with that being said, the programming guide, this is basically how to put the program together. And I'm going to guide you through this because, like I said, I'll point you to where you need to read the methods, how the commands that you need to know so that you can actually program this on your own. But I will be coding along with you. This is a very simple program, and it's fun, and although it's camels and natives, in the end, it's going to be your game. Maybe you want to do something else. You want to, as the author said, maybe you want to put it in a Star Wars universe, and you're trying to outrun drones, and you are Obi-Wan or Yoda or, hey, the child, why not? And so let's go step by step. In this video, I'm going to cover at least through step 8. We're just going to get the program set up and get some things ready to go. So here's the steps to complete the lab, and sorry if I read along with you. Feel free to modify the lab, try the game with friends and family, then see what ideas other people have. We're going to create a new directory in your project for lab 4. Well, we're not using the same thing as the author is, so I'm going to go to repl.it, my REPL REPL. I'm already logged in, and I'm going to create a new REPL, and it's going to be in Python. And I'm going to call it, I'll call it Camel Part 1. Just say Camel P1. And create it. Wait for the system to tell me that it's ready, and so the author says that we're basically working in a main function. You'll notice that REPL has already done that for us. It says you are in the main.py, and you have a document called Camel P1. It's under my user account, IDT Games. So this right here will be the code for this program all the time that I'm programming it, all the way to the next chapter. So when you are finished, be sure that you turn in the code, or rather the URL to your site, so that I can go back and check it. That being said, let's go back to the directions. We already created the main function, and so we're going to have it print the instructions. Do this in multiple print statements. We've already covered print statements in multiple assignments, so I'm not going to go back and delve into this too long. Don't use one print statement with multiple \n characters. So that's the new line character. I do have a link to show you the escape characters. We've talked about this at the very beginning. I'll just open it up. The escape characters basically start with a backslash. They're going to be able to allow us to say whenever we print something and we add the character N, the letter N, then it's going to give us a new line. You can try it if you want, and I encourage you actually to try this out at your own pace. It says hello world. Notice how /n is in between hello and world, so that when you run it, hello world is actually in two spaces. You can say hello world and add something else to the message, such as my name is Francisco. That's my name. If I run this, I expect to say hello world, and then in the second line I'll see my name is Francisco. So I run it, and it's what I expected. My name is Francisco, but so I'm going to just cut that \n from there and put it in between hello world ! And the rest of the message, so that when I run it, it happens in 2 lines. Now, the introduction is kind of long, and yes, you could just put in all these /n's in between the message to have them in separate lines. The author is recommending, though, that you just make sure that each one of these is a print statement. So let's do that really quick. And as you know from my previous videos, I say that I'm lazy. I'm a lazy typist. I'm going to right-click and copy the text that's already there. I'm going to go to my REPL. I'm going to minimize the space here on the left. I know that I'm going to be working on my main function all throughout this program, so I'm going to give me more space by just hiding that. I can always bring it back if I want. And I'm going to right-click and paste, or in this case, Control V as in Victor to paste. And welcome to Camel. This is the message that I want to see. Of course, nothing is happening on the right because it's expecting me to be writing a program. I'm only giving it text. So we'll do it as we've done it before. I'm going to start by typing the print, parentheses, and quote. Welcome to Camel is the message, because once again I'm a lazy typist. I'm going to select and copy print, parentheses, quote, because that's the way you start every print statement. Notice how one is the first line, and that's print all the way to the end of the exclamation point. The second one is print all the way to the end of that other line. So although there's nothing in between 2 and 3 here, this is actually all of line 2 that goes all the way across. I can now close those parentheses and quotes with quote parentheses rather. I'll copy that again so that I can say the same thing for every single one of these. This is a separate statement. I expect this though to give me the original message that was presented to me in the directions. If I click on run, it's going to print each line. And I can give myself a little bit more space just so that I can see all the way across. And welcome to Camel, you have stolen a camel, etc. All the way to the end of the line there, the period goes to the next line. So now I sort of see what kind of space I have to work with here. On the left, my Python code remains. My program runs fine. It's not doing anything except giving me the welcome message. You can modify this message to say whatever you'd like it to say. Make sure that it's class appropriate. And remember, it's your game, so if you want it to be another animal, another vehicle, something else, you can work that on your own. I'll go back to the next thing. We're not going to call the main function because we are in Replit, so the main function is always running. Continue from the prior step and create a Boolean variable. I do give you a link to Boolean, and I've mentioned before that if you've taken any programming language, if you took the MySQL class, you should have come across Booleans. Basically, Booleans in Python and pretty much any other language can represent one of two values, true or false. So imagine you are getting in a car and you have your key. You put in the key and you turn the car on. You'll ask yourself, because the car doesn't know any better, but you know that the car is on. So maybe that means that somewhere you have a register in your head that says on. The car is on. In this case, computer will have something like the number 1 that says it's on. If it's off, if it's not running, it'll be 0. But what's really at stake here is that the condition is the car running, true or false. So we can say that one Boolean value is either true or false. Is the game going? Is the camel still alive? Basically is what we want to find out every time that we run the program. So we have to, first of all, as I said, you get into the car, you turn it on, you know it's on, you turn it off, you know it's off. The first thing that happened, though, is that you're in the car. You need to be in the game. How do you stay in the game as the game is played? We're going to be using a while loop. So we're going to tell it, we're going to create a while loop so that it will keep on looping while done is false. What is done is here in the third step. It's going to be the Boolean variable that we're going to set. So in our code, I'm going to go to the next line. This is line 5. And I'm going to, I'll put in a space just so that it makes it easier to read, at least for me. I'm going to declare this variable. I'm going to say done is equal to true. No, actually it's equal to false because the game is going. As long as done is false, you are not done. If done were to be true, then you're really done and the game is over. So done is equal to false. What good does that do us? If we have a while loop, we're going to say that while something happens. While done, the variable, is equal to, notice that 2 equals, done is equal to false. Also, notice how false is capital F. That's because false and false could be two different things. If you have false in capital letters and a capital F, then Python knows that it's a Boolean value. That's false. I'm going to go to the next line, but not before typing a colon. While done is equal to false. While done is false, then do something. Well, do what? Basically, give us an option to do something. the programmer, or rather the author, tells us, I'm going to close some of these windows, that inside the loop, while the game is going, we're going to be given these options. A through Q, drink from your canteen, head moderate speed, head full speed, stop for the night, status check, and quit. I'm going to copy all of these because I know that here, while done is false, and I'll just paste. It's too bad I don't have a paste there, but I'll just Control V and paste it. Notice the 2 spaces. Maybe you have 4, and the way that I got mine set up is for 2. If yours automatically gave you 4, you have to remain, you have to be conscious of how many spaces you have, because while done is false, it will look for everything that is spaced out equally. In my case, it's 2 spaces. Maybe yours is 4. I want to make sure that all of these are 2. And before I get too excited, these are just the options. I'm not doing anything with them. I'm just have them there because, once again, too lazy to type. I need to, even if I'm going to do it one more time. I'm going to type in print in the right place, just before the letter A, print, open parentheses, open quotes. I'm going to copy that statement, and I'm going to paste it before each letter. That way, it will print the menu for the user every time. And at the end of each line, I'm going to add the quote and the parentheses to close. I just copy and paste that. If you want to type everything character by character, please, by all means, whatever works for you. Like I said, I'm the one that doesn't like to type. So while done is still false, then do this. So what do we expect to happen? Well, if you get in the car and it's turned on and you don't do anything, until you turn it off, the car will keep on running. So I'll keep on running. I'll type in run and see what happens. Actually, I could stop this, I think, or slow it down. I really can't. But what it's doing is that since done is false, and it always is false, and while done is false, it's going to keep on printing the menu. Luckily, I have a stop menu on the top here that I clicked on that button, and I don't know how many times this did it, but it printed the menu lots and lots of times, all the time that I was talking and not doing anything about it. So this is actually what we wanted to do. We wanted to always be giving us options. We now have to program in a way to make the program stop or do different things. It's a game, right? So what is it that we need to do once we give the user options? I'm going to type in a couple of spaces. And, well, since I'm giving the user all these choices, I should actually be asking the question, hey, what do you want to do? So I'm going to create a new variable, and I'm going to call it user_choice. I think that's an underscore. I'll double check there. Yes, it's an underscore, user_choice. And we're going to say that that's going to be equal to whatever the input of the question is. So that's parentheses, open quote, enter your name. No, enter your choice. I'm writing too many basic programs. Enter your choice, colon, and I'm going to put in a space here, as the author says. Make sure that it's not right next to it so that when the user types something, it actually looks okay. And speaking of looking okay, the backspace N, I'm going to add one just before the E in enter, /N, and that way it'll give me an extra space before, or rather after it displays all of this text with the choices. So if I run this, I expect it to always be giving me the options and also now asking me what I want to do. So it's running and I need to catch up with it. It's at the bottom here. Welcome to Camel gives me the directions. This is a candidate here for a /N after the natives, or maybe do it before the A in here so that we don't have to worry about the spacing. Actually, I like that idea better. Enter your choice, and I'm going to say, okay, C. Well, nothing happens because we haven't programmed anything as far as the options are concerned, but at least we know that it's always giving us the option to put in a choice, and we're doing fine. So I'll stop that. I'm going to change, as I said, the /n from here. I'm going to cut that, and I'm going to put it before the letter A and enter your choice here. Drink from your canteen, that's the first thing. So I would expect it to print enter your choice and then space and then the A, and then just give us regular spaces throughout. So I have the user choice, and I'm now going to be creating that value to the variable user choice every time. And as we have already found out, nothing is happening. Well, the first thing we wanted to do is we're going to give it the ability to quit. Since it's an option, it's Q for quit. And after user choice is being entered by the user, let's give it an if statement. The if statement, by the way, if you need more reading on that, there's a link in the lesson for an if statement, and we've already used if statements in assignments before, but click on try it yourself and play around with this. A is 33, B is 200. If B is greater than A, then print B is greater than A. You can change this verbiage, you can change the name to the variables, play with it, learn how this works. So I'll go back to the text and see what we need to do. Well, actually I need to go to the code since I was going to type something. If then the user choice, user underscore choice equals, and that's 2 equals, to Q, and I'm going to type in quote and Q. I'm going to type in the colon, that's the then statement, then do something. Then we're going to quit the game. How do I quit the game? The game is running as long as done is false, that is that we're not done. But if the user says, hey, you know what, I want to quit, I'm going to say that done, the variable, is going to be equal to true. So if I run this and it says, hey, enter your choice, what do you want to do? And I say I want to quit, I'm going to type in Shift Q, it stops. And that's it. I could have added a message that said you quit or something, but I just quit. If I were to run this again and type anything else in, since I have not programmed any other choice, let's say I do something that doesn't even exist, like W, it'll just keep on going. What if I type in lowercase q? It keeps on going. It wants Shift Q. Before I stop this video, before I'm done with this video, before the true actually goes to false, I'm going to make it so that we can give it a lowercase q, and that is a note that I put up here, the string upper method. So basically upper method means that Python can look at every letter as if it were a capital letter, and I typed in the lowercase q, but it didn't recognize it as an uppercase q, and uppercase q is the only thing that'll stop it. So I'll say that if the user choice is Q, and that's fine, that's great, but I'm going to add a method to this. I'm going to say user underscore choice dot upper, UPPER, and I'm going to put in a pair of parentheses there. If it's equal to uppercase Q, then it'll be done. If user choice upper, no matter what you put in, it will not see a lowercase q, it will see an uppercase Q. If I typed in a W, it would see an uppercase W. And if I run this, it says enter your choice. I'm going to just give it an E. It still doesn't do anything. I'm going to give it a uppercase Q, which is the quit command. So it quits, and we already knew that that would happen. But if I run it again and give it a lowercase q, it stops anyway because of this method. So at least for this part of the assignment, in your first file that you have created, it's this URL on top. It should be repl.it, your username, and then camel p1 for part 1. Make sure that it's saved. It should already be saved as long as you're playing with it. I'm going to copy that or cut it, whatever you want to do, and go into the assignment, and at the bottom of this where it says turn in part 1 of camel game, that's when you need to turn in your URL, and I'll be grading it. In the next message we will continue to program the options and see what happens to the rider and the camel as they start to run at full speed or moderate speed or run out of water.